Hi there, welcome back to the channel. Just wanted to do a bit of a end of season recap, mainly around the Project 1620 and how I've got on this year. And I'll probably do another roundup video next week on the sort of duathlon season and how that's gone. But as part of, I suppose, trying to improve over the duathlon, past few years I've been setting myself some challenges. It started when I turned 40 with the sort of project 1660, which was to go sort of sub 60 for 25 mile TT, and then hopefully try and get close to 16 minutes for 5k. When I actually managed to break the 60 minutes for the 25. The 16-minute flat for the 5k was slightly more challenging, to be fair. I have run sub 16, but when I was much younger. So coming from a track background, I've gone sub 16. I think when I was a little bit older, maybe late 20s, after coming back off sort of running track and then maybe not taking it so competitively for a few years, I came back and ran a sort of, I think it was around a 15:45, 15:46, something like that. So but yeah, so over the past few years I've been sort of setting myself some targets to really help me perform and hopefully better over the duathlon. So a few years ago I challenged myself with a new project, which was the Project 1620, and I've sort of been over the past couple of seasons still plugging away at that. So Project 1620 is again still looking to try and get close to that 16-minute barrier over 5k, but then also reduced my 10 mile TT PB down to sort of 20 minutes, which was something I thought I'd never be able to do, but turning 40, making a few changes in terms of diet, training and everything, I managed to get my PB down quite significantly that first couple of years. So I think when I was 2022, I believe, I've sort of got my PB down to, or 2021 actually, I got my PB down to 2039, which was a huge improvement for me. So yeah, so I just wanted to talk about a few of the races I've done this year as part of Project 1620 and just give you a bit of an update of how that's going and hopefully what that looks like into next year, which yeah. So firstly, in terms of the 10 mile TT, I haven't raced as many as I wanted to this year for a range of different reasons. Some of it just because of other races that were in the diary. I was trying to sort of also improve the 25 mile TT PB, but I managed to get on one of my favourite courses, which was the E210, which is a really quick course. Anyone looking for a quick 10 mile time, I do recommend getting onto the E210, which is I've raced there quite a few times now. Initially set my PB in 2021 riding a 2039 on that course. In 2022 went back there again and reduced that slightly to a 2035, and then in 2023 I went there a couple of times. I managed to lower my PB down to a 2030 last year, and then also I did another ride later on in the year on the same course and did a 2041. However, that was without a computer. I had a bit of an issue with the bike computer on the way, so it was really difficult in terms of pace judgment. I also think when I rode that 2041, I also on the turnaround, so a lot of the dual carriageway courses that you ride, especially the E210, sort of out and back with a turn around one of the islands, so sometimes can be a little bit got to be a bit lucky with some of the traffic. It is marshalled, but obviously this is on public highways and an open road, so yeah, I got a little bit of caught in traffic there. So I do think that ride was a really good ride on that day without riding with the computer and also having a little bit of the traffic. I don't think I'd have broken my PB, but I think I would have probably done another sub 2040 on that day. Yeah, so this year I went there, I think it was August, let me just check, August the 10th. I went down, so the E210 is out near Cambridge, so I went out and did that. It was one of those strange rides where being an out and back, it was a pretty windy day, and actually my power meter wasn't, for some reason, wasn't working quite right. So as I went out for the first 5 mile out into the headwind, really felt I was working really hard, but the power meter was probably saying I was about 100 watts down on where I think I should have been, sort of high 100s, which I would normally be riding close to 300 or even above 300 for a sort of a 10-mile TT. So I rode out, really worked hard. I thought I was having a bad day. So I just dug deep really and just wanted to have a good ride out, a good hit out, and just, even if the numbers weren't there and I thought the time wasn't great, I got to the turnaround point and I think I was pretty much probably a minute down on where I've been on that course. And I was pretty thinking, oh crikey, this is just going to be a bad day. I was hoping to get closer to 20 minutes, beat my PB hopefully. And I just sort of had to get my head down and really dig deep, and just thought, right, I'll just have a good hit out and see where we get. Turn around at the 5 mile point, and on the way back, suddenly the speed started to pick up. I felt like I was moving really well. I was going well beyond sort of 30 mile an hour on the way back. And suddenly the time on the computer, and as the miles were ticking off on the way back, I was sort of catching back up to where I was, or where I thought I should have been. And actually I dug really deep again on the way back. And in the end, I went 20:27, which was a 3-second PB. So I was super chuffed with that. Ideally, I'd have liked to have gone a little bit quicker on that day. However, I think mentally, the way I managed to get through that race, when I was really struggling, the power didn't look good. And it's amazing, those sorts of things, having computers and having all this technology, but when it does play up a little bit, sometimes you've just got to dig deep and just see what happens. And that day I thought was on a really bad ride, and actually on the way back sort of really worked on my position, got my shoulders tucked in on the bike, and managed to claw my way back to a 3-second PB. And for me, what the big thing about that was, all my other rides, 20:39, 20:35 and a 20:30, that wrong side of the minute. It's sort of, now we're in 20:27, so we're coming down. It feels like we've got over that little bit of a 30-second lump, and now I'm coming back down. So I think this year I've probably not raced enough 10s. I think I probably need to get on a couple of other courses. I think there's another quick course called the F2 something, and I'll just put that up in the I'll put that in the comments, or I'll put it on screen now. But that's also a really quick course. I think it's a little bit more undulating, so it does require you to have a little bit of a bigger gear, I think, just to get the benefit of, I think the last sort of few miles is quite downhill. So unless you're running a really big sort of chainring at the front, sometimes you can be undergeared on that. So I'll probably try and get up on that course as well next year. So all in all, I'm in terms of Project 1620, yeah, haven't broken 20 minutes yet, but it's still coming down. So I turned 40 in 2020. That year started to take the time trialing a little bit more seriously. Since then, like I said, especially over the last couple of years, I've reduced that now by another 12 seconds. I think there's a few more gains that I can make into next year. I had a bike fit again this year with Matt Bottrell, which if you have a look at my previous videos, I've got a good video on that. Had a new Drag to Zero cockpit put on, and hopefully I've got a few more gains that I can make on that. Hopefully going back later in January, just to see if I can get a new helmet. Some really project ones coming in, which Matt recommends could save me a good sort of 5 to 10 watts with the new position and the helmet. And then also for me as well, I'm not riding a wax chain at the moment as well, so that's quite a quick fix that I can do, which isn't a lot of expense. And the other big thing then is as well probably upgrading the TT suit this year at some point to a probably a no pins hypersonic, which are supposed to be pretty rapid. So I reckon there's a few training things that I can still benefit from. I think just again another good year of cycling, another year of getting race fit and understanding how to race those courses better, hopefully with a few upgrades in terms of the equipment and the clothing. And I reckon I'm hoping this year to get a little bit closer to maybe sub 220, close to that 2015. If I can, really look to go close to that 20 minutes. And I'm not a million miles off. Maybe on a super day with the right equipment, I can get pretty close to this. So that's the ambition for this year, to really get as close as I can to that 20 minutes and hopefully break it. 30 seconds doesn't sound like a lot. However, it is at those sorts of speed, when you're doing 29, 30 mile an hour, it's 30 seconds is still a good chunk of distance and time. So in terms of the 10 miler, it's going well. It's going in the right direction. Year on year, it is coming down. Probably not making the big chunks of time that I'd hope for this year, but 3 seconds is good. And like I said, hopefully a couple more races next year as well, and getting racing a little bit more might be beneficial. So that's the 10 miler. In terms of the 5K, done quite a few races this year over the 5K, 3 in total. But just to give some context, when I turned 40, that was a big ambition of mine to run sub 16. Had a bit of a niggle that year, but I did come back and I ran a 16:49, I think it was, or something like that, at Mallory Park, which wasn't a bad run considering I was 40. Minute down on probably a time that I ran probably 20 years earlier. Not too bad, I don't think. So then into 22 and 23, I ran 2 16:23s. One of those was at Mallory Park in Leicester, which is a small sort of racetrack. Quite a good course, to be fair. Closed roads, and I've raced there a few times. And then the second one was done by Brat, who is I think it's Birmingham Roeheath, or Athletics and Triathlon Club, I think it is, called Brat, and they did a Summerfield Dash, I think it's called, at a local park in Birmingham, and I ran a 16:23 there as well. So going into this year, kicked off the year in Leicester in March at a Podium 5K. Now those races are fantastic. Anybody looking for a quick 5K race, really well organised, great venues. I know they've got one coming up on New Year's Eve. I think it's Battersea Park. I think the Leicester one next year is completely sold out, because I was trying to get in on that. Missed the boat there. But I also raced at the Podium 5K at Cardiff as well, in the castle, near the castle in Cardiff in the city centre, and that was a good race as well. So Podium 5K in Leicester, really good race there. I can't remember what race I was in, probably something like the E race or the F race or something ridiculous. It's really nice. They've got so many races on during those days, from the elites all the way up to sort of people that are running 20-minute plus times, but really well organised. So that race, I think it was sort of like on a cycle track or something. I think it was about three laps, I think it was. Went out pretty hard with the ambition of trying to get as close to 16 as I could. I actually ran a 16:18. I'll put the splits up on the screen as well, how I went through each of the miles. I always run with my watch on miles. I know a lot of people do run with kilometres. Maybe it's something pace-wise when I'm racing, especially over 5K. It might be easy to monitor pace judgment over kilometres, because you can not over egg it quite as much. I think if you've gone through the first mile pretty quick, can't really come back from that. You've already put a lot of lactate into the legs. But I ran 16:18 there, so 5 seconds quicker than previous years, which is really good, positive. And actually it's starting to get close to that 16 minute point. Again, probably need to race a few more. I mean, if I was really, really going for sub 16 and I wasn't a duathlete and I wasn't doing any of the cycling, I'd probably be doing a few track races through the summer, like 3 kilometres and things like that. But I just don't have the time to get track racing in, as well as the cycling, as well as the running, then racing on top of that. In terms of the duathlons, it's pretty difficult. So yeah, early start to the year in March, and actually running a 16:18 I was super chuffed with, and I was hoping that would lead me on to some other good performances later on in the year. I then went on into April, which was just before the Powerman Duathlon Championships in Germany, and I went out to Mid Cheshire 5K, which again, anyone looking for a super quick 5K course, this is one of the best ones in the country. It's sort of up there with the Telford 10K, which is running in December time, which is renowned for its sort of super quick 10 kilometre. So the Mid Cheshire 5K, I think they do a spring one in April, and I think then they do one later in the year. So it's supposed to be a really quick course. I sort of went there with some quite high expectations, thinking, okay, this is a pretty quick course, big field. It's just unlike the Podium 5K. It's just a out and out race. You line up in sort of in line with your PB, but it's a big mass start. So you really can get dragged along in the first mile, which is generally, I think, downhill the first mile, and then you sort of come back slightly uphill then on the way back. A little disappointed with that. I actually ran a 16:29. Great to go sub 16:30. However, I was looking for a bit more there. So I'm not sure. I mean, I was working. It was a Friday night race. I worked during the day. I did a bit of a bike in the morning. I'm not sure why. Perhaps I didn't run as well there. I think a lot of people said just watch the first mile. Don't go off too quick. And actually, I probably think I didn't go off quick enough on the first mile and didn't utilise the downhill stretch to really get some, I suppose, some minutes in the bank, or some seconds in the bank. I did run pretty well, but I think I was a little bit disappointed with that at 16:29. I then went over to Cardiff in August, which wasn't too far after racing my 10 mile TT PB, so I was in good shape. So I drove over to Cardiff to race the Podium 5K there. Lots of Western Tempo people there when I went and did that race, which was great. Nice to be seeing part of the club and warming up with some of the guys, and also racing with some of the other guys and some of the ladies as well. Ran really well during that series. So Podium, the Cardiff one, again, I really wanted to go out hard on that one. And to be fair, I went through first kilometre probably right on the nose in terms of 16-minute pace. I'll try and put the my splits up on the screen as well, but yeah, probably went out a bit too hard, to be fair. I think the challenge for me is that after running 16:18, thinking I want to get close to 16 minutes, I'm probably trying to run out at 16-minute pace, when in actual fact, for my PB 16:18 at the moment, in terms of my V40 PB, I could probably be running 5 seconds slower a mile, and probably being a bit more even splits in terms of that, rather than trying to go out at the 16-minute pace and just hang on. So it might be something for next year, that rather than really trying to go out and run at the 16-minute pace, maybe go out and run at more like a 16:10 pace, and just see if I can just whittle that PB down a little bit, and then really sort of push on then to try and break that 16. I think the difficulty for me at the moment, both in the bike and the run, is I'm getting a little bit older. I'll be 45 in a few weeks. However, since turning 40, the training's ramped up, my diet's improved, my sleeping's improved. I have got a coach, my training seems to be going well, and I'm actually performing year on year better on both the 10 mile and the 5K, so I can't grumble really. It's just how much more I can plug before I start to slow down. I'm hoping I can get at least another season in of just trying to get those times down, so I'd love to break 16 on the 5K again, and I'd really like to get the 20 minutes for the 10 mile. But I think The bike is probably where I'm probably still going to improve on year, as I came to that a lot later, especially in terms of the training volume and the stuff I'm doing there. And I think technology as well, there's a lot of benefits there. I know we've got the carbon shoes for the running. However, yeah, I think run-wise, I might struggle a little bit as I get closer to that sort of 50. So yeah, all in all, pretty good year. Yeah, in terms of Project 1620, I'm getting closer to those two targets. I'm in both the 10 mile. I'm now at 2027, which is the right side of that sort of 30-second, whereas before I was at 2030. So I am getting into that point where it's now starting to count down to 20 minutes. And the same with the 5K at 16:18. It's the first time I've broken 16:20 since turning 40, so I'm coming in the right direction. If I can get close to, for both of those this year, if I can get closer to 20:15 over the 10 miler and get close to maybe 16:10 over the 5K, I think that would be really good. But the ambition and I suppose the moonshot is to break 20 minutes and to break 16 minutes. So we'll see how that goes into the new year. I'll keep you posted on the races, especially the 5Ks and the 10 miles, and I'll hopefully do a bit of an update on my duathlon season and how that's gone, because that's gone pretty well this year as well. So there's a lot to talk about there, and I'll post that up in a separate video. So if you haven't, like and subscribe. Hope you all had a good Christmas. Enjoy the new year. Keep the training up. Is there anything you want to see, anything you want to know more about, put a comment below and I'll try and reply. But thanks for all of those that you subscribed this year, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.